I'm going to show you now how to diagram adverbial clauses, and we call those subordinate clauses. So subordinate clauses, most technically, are clauses that function as adverbs. So I've written a main clause here on the board that we're going to modify. I became aware of my hunger. Now, as of now, there's no adverb clause here, but let's think of one. So I became aware of my hunger because I fainted. So because I fainted would modify became, and it would tell us why you became aware. Why? Because I fainted. That's why. So it answers a why question, and therefore it is adverbial. So because I fainted, well, we're going to need a baseline. So I'll just put it here. And it's a subject-verb combination. I fainted. Now what we do with adverbial clauses is we draw a dotted line between the verb that's being modified, in this case became, and the verb in the subordinate clause. So we do that. There it is. So we draw a line between became and fainted. And we put the subordinating conjunction, because that's what adverb clauses begin with. They begin with subordinating conjunctions, and in this case it's because, and we draw it right on this dotted line. I haven't left myself very much room, but just enough. So now what we have is I became aware of my hunger because I fainted. Now, the adverb clauses can move around, of course, so the sentence could just as easily have been, because I fainted, I became aware of my hunger. And in that case, the diagram would look exactly the same. So just from this diagram, except because maybe this B isn't capitalized, we can't tell whether it's because I fainted, I became aware of my hunger, or I became aware of my hunger because I fainted. But the diagram for both looks exactly the same. Again, with the possible exception of whether or not this B is capitalized, if you want to be a real stickler about that. Why don't we come up with just one more to confirm this lesson. Let's see, I became aware of my hunger because I fainted after I left. After I left would be another subordinate clause. And if it were, I became aware of my hunger because I fainted after I left, well, that would be answering the question, fainted when? After I left, that's when. So we would have another baseline coming down here. So the subordinate clause that does come underneath the verb that's being modified. So you don't want to put it up above it. So the diagram, subordination is shown literally. It is subordinated. So I fainted after I left. So the subject-verb combination is I left. And we draw a dotted line between the verb that's being modified and the subordinate clause that is modifying it. And we draw our subordinating conjunction on that dotted line. So I became aware of my hunger because I fainted after I left. So we have a subordinate clause modifying fainted, and a subordinate clause here modifying became. And that's how you diagram subordinate clauses.